So we have all sorts of little problems or big problems, specific problems with maybe specific solutions, but sometimes it feels a little like they are distractions, because if we were only, say, awake enough to realize what they actually were, they would more or less vanish, they would dissolve.
Well, you are awake enough, see? But whether or not you put your attention on what it is the question. How do you spend your attention? We could say, how do you waste your attention? Yeah. The problem then is suffering. Proper assessment of suffering. Proper recognition of suffering. And the solution is practice. Yeah. Letting go of suffering. And then what do you have when you let go of all your suffering? You have a lot more space to do creative things with. Maybe important things. Maybe even big things. You have to clear the path for yourself, for your being, and see what it is. Hear what it is, feel what it is, know what it is. Realize what it is so you can be what it is.
Yeah.
It's too simple for most people, by the way. It's too simple, too radical, and too demanding, too extreme for many people. But it's not extreme. It's too extreme because your karmas are operating at the extreme level. Your karmas are dominating you at the extreme level. So when it comes time to change gears, you run into extreme resistance to a change of pattern, a change of mind, a change of heart, a change of doing, and a change of being. So practice then over time is this transformation of basic resistance, ignorance, unenlightened behavior, towards awakening to what is really the case beyond the programming that obsesses you, possesses you, distresses you, yeah, and binds you. All of which released makes for a very good day.
You mentioned maybe all we need to do is learn how to breathe.
Exactly. That's the recommendation of the masters of peace. The masters of what could be called heart essence, recognition, and realization. Very abstract ideas until you stop and sit with them and feel them for yourself. So for many, they have to be told the shocking news that they are not all that is. They are not the real that is. And this is a direct pointing out of the self as neuroses, anxious, concerned, uptight, divided, the usual. See? The everyday, every person, see, who has to struggle, and the question there is struggle. Does what you have to do have to be turned into a struggle? Is there another way to do it? Is there a better or higher way to get things done? Yeah. Rather than being self-conflict over it? In practice centers throughout the world, you stop. Not to be stopped, but you stop in order to be able to do what you have to do with less. Or whatever it is. The idea is to facilitate doing with minimal stress, confusion, and burnout. So you have to learn how to build energy, integrate the forces, the high and the low, the left and the right sides. Yeah. Using gravity, using levity, using the solar system, using the center of the earth as part of your basic practice of integration. Not as an ego, but as part of the field of life. It has nothing to do with the ego, it just is. The is of it. Come to peace with the is of it. Tell each other, slow down, you're getting crazy for no reason. Yeah, see, we're okay. At the extreme end of that, there's nothing you can do to a person that is hysterical. Some say, whack 'em out of it. Others say maybe they need a hug. They need some calmness. They need some sanity. Yes. What is sanity? If we look just a little bit out here, you see plenty of what sanity is not. And we're happy ordinarily to be in the flow of insanity. But we need to know that there is sanity underneath what appears to be, or is, insanity. See? Violence, sickness, self-division, self-conflict, unhappiness. And feel deeper than self and say, no, I am peace. I am the peace I'm looking for, but deep within. It's in my bones. I feel it in my bones and in the earth. I feel the earth as original sanity. Mother as true ground. Living being. Great intelligence. I remain open to her whisperings. The spirit of motherness. And her function as giver of life and death. So great. She deserves to be listened to. Just listen to her. Listen. All ears. And you hear a word. In silence.
So both here and in other teachings like in Buddhism, it's said that of all things, including the insanity that we were just talking about,
Well, let's say warfare, yeah.
Yeah, are themselves sanity, are themselves it, no less than what we're talking about.
That's a hard pill to swallow. Yeah. If we're talking about ultimate realization, which is beyond duality, yeah, where it just is, then there's nothing to say about anything. But at some point you have to make a choice, rather, in terms of having your child's head blown off or not. Yeah. And deciding which side of the fence of sanity or insanity you're going to fall on in that moment. And so when we're talking about human survival instinct, then there's a pretty predictable sort of like, say, response then, under those conditions. So in the karmically, relatively real world, and there's pain and suffering, huge, it is. But it is also an appearance. That is a critical distinction. Are you in the appearance of it? Are you in the imagination of it? Or are you in the reality of it? Are you at the point of the conscious realization of phenomena that you don't see that anymore? You don't see the distinction. And you're willing to take what comes with it. Say, Amen. So be it. So there is realization beyond mind and concerns for the relative. But for many, that's an impossible, if not dangerous, proposition. It's like saying there are no bullets flying when you hear them zipping by your ear, zinging all over the place. Dangerous proposition. But in the temple, in a debate of a philosophic nature, then of course there's nothing. It's easy to say that, because you're not ducking bullets, or grenades, or artillery rounds, mortar shells. And you can reach that state, where it doesn't matter what it is. You don't care if you're dying. You can be in such a condition of exuberant realization. And there's nothing. Boom. It goes. And it disappears. And you are relieved of duty as a human incarnate being.
Yeah, the distinction and the discussion is a little like being somebody being taught that everything is okay, and so they have a stomachache because they ate a certain thing, and that's okay. But they can eat that certain thing again and have their stomachache again, and still okay, not realizing they have perhaps work to do on what choices they're making.
That's okay. It's all okay. So, saying it's okay doesn't change anything. It depends on what you're willing to experience and what you're willing to let go. So it's okay to be a human. It's okay to suffer humanity and loss. Yes. It doesn't matter if it's okay or not. It's your experience. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So we can say, It's okay. But we're not saying it's really okay. We're saying it's okay. People are wheeled into the emergency room. It's okay. It's okay. They're not believing you because they're on the operating table. Mm-hmm. And so they trust it's going to be okay. It's not okay yet. So it's relative okayness. They have support. They have a team of people ready to improve their condition or save their life, whatever it may be. So we're talking about relative okayness then. With confidence, because of the skill at hand, that they're going to be just fine and dandy. Then there are those conditions where they can't say anything because they have no confidence that this person's going to survive. Mm-hmm. And you can still tell them they're okay because they're still here for a moment. But then they're gone. Because you can't say to them, listen, you're going to be going in a few moments. Do you have last words? You can say that. Might be a good idea under certain conditions. Say, no, you can't survive the next few minutes. Your loss of blood is too horrific. So then there's no mind anymore that matters. Conversation doesn't matter. Philosophy, what's real and unreal, insane or insane, these things disappear. The person is a state of being in the mode of passing over. And they're subject to the nature of it, the forces of it, so they have no choice. It just happens. And their self-consciousness disappears, and they're gone. Their life form, their spirit leaves the body, and they move. They've moved on. And become subject to the whole of the universe and its laws and processes. It's all lawful. Nothing happened. There's living and dying. Nothing happens. Just nature having its way. And some will see it as insane, some will see it as sane, and some will say the insanity is somebody else's insanity, and somebody else's insanity is somebody else's sanity, and it's just... And it is what it is. When by the force of my family, I was being pushed, not just told, but nudged to teach in New York, back in the late 70s and 80s. My relatives would come to me and say, it's your time now. And I'd say, what do you mean it's my time? Time for what? Oh, you know these things. I said, yeah, so what? I know these things. What am I supposed to do with it besides what I know? And I said, no, now it's time. You have to start teaching. We will help you. And so, coincidentally, people were coming to me asking me questions. So there was a wave that they were in tune with that has to do with, I guess you might say, genetics and family karma. So I was okay with it. So, all right, let's see how it goes. And there were people who would come to me and say, in good confidence, that this was a serious arrangement. So, what's real about any of this? Can you show us reality? And I said, well, let me think. Hang out at the emergency room and you tell me what reality is. And some did it. Some came back to me. I said, changed their life view completely. They hadn't been that close to that life and death edge. See? An extreme urgency and what extreme service was in terms of the people doing their medical best to save people. I said, yeah, that's important. Well, that's life for some. So that was a very good teaching for the time. And in some cases, see how good you have it. You're not living in an emergency situation, an emergency room. Well, say, madhouse. So your understanding of this event called life is different. More blasé, more comfort, casual. With enough stresses, of course, to go around. Yeah. But you don't have a knife at your head. You don't have a gun in your face. You don't have a car, running you down. So you have this movement, this freedom, appearing to be freedom. Yeah. And others don't have that. They're in a different time world completely. Intense pressure. Maybe the pressure of poverty. Maybe. Maybe it's just karma. Maybe. Maybe it's choices. Maybe. Maybe it's river blood programming. Maybe. Whatever it is. Our view is not the only view. When we start to practice, we have to see the bigger picture. Become sympathetic to the bigger picture. That deep down inside, we are the bigger picture. Deep down inside, we are a greater reality of awareness than functioning as a self permits you to see, be, or know. See? It's all about myself, it's big. It is what it is. And go back to the is. Who it is and what it is and how it is and why it is. See? And where it is. See? Some are born far from any kind of direction. They're born into situations and they have to survive those situations if they can. If they outgrow those survival situations, they may find their way. It may be waiting for them somewhere outside of that situation. While that very situation is a form of direction, but they don't see it as such. That it is a pointing. And you know it by the pain that you incur, that you sense, that you experience, that you react to, that you're repelled by. In effect, moving you or forcing you in another direction. So, it's too painful to be around, so you go somewhere else to ease the pain. Sometimes it is that easy. Remove yourself from your situation. Not to abandon it, but to recover yourself. So you can get back into your situation to complete whatever it is you sense or know there is to complete. Which, once accomplished, you feel more liberated to move on to the next set of lessons, the next step on your path. The next circle of people you call your friends. You move on. Like life and death, you move on, you let it go, and you let that die off, and you enter a new dimension. You let that die off, and you enter another dimension or another body, and you let that die off, and you keep going until there's no more. There's no more to get into and no more to die off. It's done. The ordeal is done. And you're then ready to sit. For real. And realize the unrealizable in the process. When a degree of clearance arises for the individuals who have been in the field for long enough, who have put many of their debts to rest, learned their lessons well, so as not to create more complications and problems for themselves, they begin to learn how to create clearance for themselves. Then there is the attitude of gratitude. Not, oh, what about me? This is mine. But that's yours, that's not mine. This is mine and that's yours. Self starts to fall away. A bigger picture starts to dawn on your consciousness, an image or vision. The heart is opening. And now it's time to be full of grace. Give up disgrace. Take up this grace. Compassion, love and mercy from a level of high heart intelligence. No more ignorance, no more mistakes. Everything perfect from the heart's higher intelligence. Beyond self-confusion, division, and suffering. Peace, strength, power of spirit, not as self, but as channel, as master of conditions. And that means in proper cooperation with the forces of life, not dominating, but cooperating, tolerating from a most peaceful disposition.
So all of the questions that I can think of, how do I, what if, what does this mean, such and such, those things, at a certain point in my experience can all start to stand in the way of what you said earlier, which is to experience it for yourself. Learn how to breathe, see what that means, something like that. And so
you have to be your breath. You can't just breathe and be some kind of thought machine, self machine, mind machine. That's not going to work. You got to move from this theater to this theater. Super basic. See? Phew. Balancing, see, flows. It's yoga, but it's just breathing. It's not yoga, anything. It's called, whatever. Why would you call it anything more than what it is? But yoga implies conscious breathing. Clearing, cleansing. Settling down, grounding, see, feeling your earthness, see, and also feeling your heavenness, see, your majestic, sort of noble lightness of being, and grounded at the same time. No conflict. This noise is, as you describe it, the result of little discipline. Once the breathing, right, and the alignment of breathing relative to the lower body and the higher body, upper body, the head and the trunk, the feet, arms, fingers, all of that becomes integrated properly. See? Let's use the word harmoniously, and you feel it. There's no question about it. Your mind's kind of like melts down, and you feel your ears, you feel your shoulders more than you think anything. You feel your elbows, your knees, your feet, the ground, more than you are able to analyze anything. It's just, melting into the consciousness of being. Calm. Some would say shamatha. It becomes vividly clear. Thought is something you allow to happen. And when you need it to happen, it should happen. But when you need to be beyond it, at the soul level of clear awareness, it's easier to be that, because that's truer, more creative, more useful, and more healing than not.
When one has the amazing opportunity and good fortune, or maybe good karma, to have a relationship with the living master, how can that be best, say, taken in and reflected?
Well, you have to know what you need to do with that. That's not enough to say, oh, you have this thing with the living, anything. You have to know that the ultimate purpose of association from the bottom up and the closing of the gap between the up and the lower, say, the novices and then the adepts, it's really exchanging your mind for their mind and your heart for their heart. That's it. That's it. Then the question is, can you get that close to such a being as to be able to accomplish that? And I dare say it doesn't have to be physically close. It can be remote. If you're strong enough in your practice and attuned enough to the being and what it is you recognize is coming through that belongs to you, so to speak, or you have resonance with, it can be done. It's not a problem. It is a process. And so real teachers make themselves available to certain people. And they live that process. They live it. Or it lives them. The process then lives the individual. And it could be better for the one who subjects themselves to it. Could be. They could go beyond themselves and feel things on their own they do not tend to feel, or access for themselves. It could be that way.
Yeah, it has. Has been that way. Yeah, it's not sure if it's possible to adequately put into words what some of this experience has been in my case, because some of it just doesn't fit. Some of it is not shareable in language.
Some of it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Right. No. But it has to do with consciousness, not self, but consciousness, awareness, not self. Not self-limitation as much as self-liberation. Not going into the self, building self, but getting away from the self and transcending self. It's very clear. Yeah. Yeah. And we don't go as far as saying there's a living master here or not living here. Yeah. We know that there's practice here. A practice should be what makes anything what it is. Not a title, not a role. So, not some lofty, anything. This is practice, breathing, listening, seeing, smelling, tasting, hearing, and knowing beyond appearances. And being that, not just occasionally visiting the mindset of what that could be. But doing it, to be it, and being it. See? To share it with others. Without self-sharing. It just is. Tree de grace. In the traditions, they speak of the truth, karmic truth. Then they speak of transcendent truth. They speak of the lower or false self, and they speak of the higher self, super self, Paramatma. The real, which is no self. The self of the real is no self. No self is the self of the real. Comment.
Yeah.
So you must know that potentially you are the true self. So that means you can sink into that and actually start to feel more resonance with it when you're willing to give up your crap. Right. Crap aside, we fall into the deeper self, true self, no self, heart being, sacred presence. Every cell in your body is like light. Not a theory. You feel it. It's a very pleasant form of electrocution. Right, electrifying bliss. Charging. Right. Breathing. Ascending. Bringing the vibrations up. Yeah. And being okay with that. So we do what we have to do. With more light at our disposal. Yeah.
It seems as though that which stands in the way of the self, what you were talking about, the lower self, is only there to describe itself so that we can keep moving. It's a good teacher in that, but a demanding one.
The lower self demands that you know where it comes from. And what it's an extension of. The lower self is related to the higher self. So when you look closely at the lower self, you see it doesn't exist, but does exist. Is what it isn't. See? That is the higher self. It is the is which isn't. Shu.